All right, I guess I better go ahead and talk about this because a lot of people are talking about um, the fighting game community code of conduct, communications. Now, a lot of people are talking about this reviving the idea of a code of conduct against the fighting game community. And this is kind of a code of conduct for the fighting game competitions that happen. And they hope that this would not happen when the Smash the Smash community had that little drama that I used to report about. Now, keep this in mind. A lot of people have talked about this situation a while back in 2020, especially the behavior that happened with a certain person in the fighting game community, and it was a big scandal, and thus they decided to put out this fighting game code of conduct uh, idea, which this is what their intentions are of this code of conduct. This is the fighting game code of conduct. Its goal is to prevent and expel predatory behavior and emotional, sexual, verbal, and physical abuse, to create a safer and more inclusive fighting game community, which more people can enjoy the fun, exciting, grassroots spirit of our community. It was put together by community volunteers, reviewed by other community volunteers, and agreed by community leaders. It applies to all the players and attendees in tournaments, organizers and staffs and streamers and commentators, posters, and so on who attend and run and use the tournament's online message platforms, chat rooms, servers, and other communities gathering places that have signed on to enforce it. God, I sound so bad. It was a wake of so many examples of abuse and bigotry and other bad actions of our scene. We must recognize that we have not done enough to keep our community members safe. Previously, we have only relied on our individual tournament organizers and professional tours of conduct their own disciplinary actions. Unfortunately, that kind of piecemeal approach, piecemeal approach, not only an unfair burden of those TOs to unnecessary ends in the decision that can be more across and slow dogpiling that they can feel inconsistent or that are made by people who may not be well connected to the community. We hope that this code of conduct will solve those problems by empowering faster and more uniform. Okay, this sounds like a really weird thing to say, and more community focused action. Please read the rest of this document, which we try to write in a way that doesn't take a law degree to get through. Remember, these rules apply to everyone in any tournament event discussing spaces that adopt this code of conduct to make sure that you understand them. If you have any questions, feel free to strike up a conversation at fightinggamecommunications@gmail.com. Now, they actually have it on their website, which I will link down below for you guys so you can see the thing, but they also have a PDF version, which I read, and I find some of it's kind of funny because a lot of it's like, here's what they're saying here. Authority. Code of conduct. This is a fighting game community code of conduct, sets the rules to promote better behavior in the fighting game community, as agreed upon by the fighting game community events organizers, tournaments organizers, online chat, server coordinators, web platform providers, broadcasters, and other community leaders who we're calling the backers. They call them backers. Wow. This code of conduct will lead by a group called the Code of Conduct Team, tasked to creating and enforcing and updating both this code of conduct and its own rules. The code of conduct to and all against all people, we're calling to participants, including attendees, users, and players. How can attendees be like anyone who's watching like a like the event or anything like that, I don't think they're responsible. But the problem is, like, I can understand the whole rowdiness of cheering on people and everything and all other stuff. But when it comes down to it, it's ridiculous how they're trying to uh, do this. It's like participants, including attendees, users, players, tournaments, and events, staff and volunteers and individuals representing the teams, sponsors, and advertisers, and the backers, and anyone who else attends, operates, and uses in-person online events and spaces to run any backers, which we're calling community spaces. Okay, recommendations. The team of the Code of Conduct team, we have disciplinary process allowing to receive investigations to make decisions regarding reports of violations of the Code of Conduct that will be known as recommendations, which the Code of Conduct team will then send to the backers, and the backers will be encouraged to follow these recommendations, but won't be required to, which they don't have to. Responsibilities. All participants will be personally responsible for familiarizing themselves with the Code of Conduct. The backers will be will be responsible for promoting and posting easily noticeable places, but this Code of Conduct will apply to all participants regardless of whether they've read it. Well, let's see. Minimum rules. This Code of Conduct will be considered the minimal standard rules of any community spaces. The backers may use additional third-party rules that may make their own decisions regarding behavior taking up or targeting their community spaces if they want. Basically, if someone messes up, they can do whatever the person who is controlling can do whatever the hell they want. They have the power to do so. That's basically what it is. They can, if they don't like the person, they can kick them out. Last update. The most recent publication date of this Code of Conduct is January 14, 2020. Now, the objective here is what they're trying to do here. The Code of Conduct is a guide by the following intentions, which we're calling objectives. Inclusivity, which is, of course, that's what they're trying to do. The inclusivity objectives states that the Code of Conduct is intended to make the fighting game community a safe place, a safe and inclusive experience, and now in the future, in which everyone feels welcome, regardless of race, color, ethnicity, nationality, sex, or sexual or romantic orientation. I don't even know why they keep rewording it sexual orientation, but they would say romantic orientation. Okay, that's fine. That's a new word I never really heard about. Gender identity, religion, disability, neurodiversity. Neurodiversity. That's a new one I never heard of. Body size, pregnancy, maternity, citizenship, or any other personal characteristics. Integrity. This is another one. The integrity objective states that the Code of Conduct is intended to maintain the build of integrity in the fighting game through consistent, diverse leadership and fair tournament operations, equitable to community spaces. Authenticity. Authenticity objective states that this Code of Conduct is intended to pursue above the goals of inclusivity and integrity. So basically, exciting, fun, trash talking spirit and decoration of competition. So the criteria disciplinary process will be conducted by the following guidelines in mind, which we're calling the criteria. This is something else. Objection. The entire disciplinary action and recommendation process, which undertakes investigation and final decision, will be informed with the guided by the objectives. Location. Recommendations may be made regardless of where any violations take place, including not just the community spaces, but in the venue areas, hotel, private homes, bars and clubs, social media, public chat rooms and forums, other websites, and so on. However, due to potential private concerns, the Code of Conduct team will not accept and will not make any decisions based on private communications like text messages and direct messages. Okay, so basically if I have some proof that someone was saying something to me on the internet you would not take into consideration, may not make any decisions based on private communications like text message or direct messages. Okay, fine. Time. The Code of Conduct team may make recommendations under this Code of Conduct for any violations committed by participants before the Code of Conduct was first adopted, as long as those violations are part of any ongoing pattern that indicates the participants is likely to engage in more violations in the future. What is this, Minority Report? God damn, they must be psychics, for Christ's sakes, for making this. Time. It's like they can they go back in time, or they can go into the future. I wonder how that works for this Code of Conduct too. Excuses. Violations will not be excused just because participants may have committed them under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or any alternate state of mind. Standards. This Code of Conduct does not replace the legal system, can't produce decisions as served as those of the legal system. As a result, a disciplinary process should not and will not be bound by the standards of process and might apply in a court of law. Recommendations will be based on on the Code of Conduct team's reasonable understanding of the facts of each case. Consistency, disciplinary process of the recommendations. Consistency. The disciplinary process of the recommendations are intended to be consistent and foreseeable enough that participants should expect to face consequences for violations. That said, no two situations are the same, and different cases may have different outcomes. Yay. Conflicts of interest. When any person would normally participate in a disciplinary process is confirmed with a case involving any of their family, close friends, or romantic or sexual partners, business partners, they will let wow, they really want to get into this whole thing. Like the Code of Conduct team know about the conflict of interest, withdraw themselves from any role of the case. Okay, that's like they really want to get into people's private lives. That's just this is obviously funny as hell. Reading this list of violations of the Code of Conduct, including engaging in assault and battery, physical harm. That's fine. I can agree with certain things about this. Engaging in malicious bullying, baiting, trolling, and other non-physical harassment or abuse that raises to the level beyond commonly accepted fighting game. Trash talking, using threatening and deadly dangerous weapons except reasonable defense situations. In a fighting game tournament. Okay, so pestering and stalking other persons or otherwise for not respecting any other person's reasonable desire to be left alone. Taking photographs or recordings of any person without their consent or backer authorization. That's fine. That's kind of what they do at conventions too. Like any convention, like you have to ask permission beforehand when you're at an event. Yeah, that's fine. I can understand that. Engaging in discriminatory, hateful statements or behaviors, including any based on race, color, ethnicity, nationality, citizenship. Okay. Again, they're doing that again. And chances of outing any other person for sexual orientation, gender, or other without consent. Okay. Intentionally causing fear, distress, and malicious abuse of power over other people. Disclosing confidential information, media, doxing, shares, any personal identity information, violating any other person's reasonable expectation of privacy. Internet. This is so ridiculous. Intentionally entering an off-limit area of the community spaces. DOSing, swatting, spreading malware, phishing, hacking, or any other. Okay, so wow, this is going to the territory of what? This is kind of ridiculous. Like, how is this going to happen at a fighting game tournament? I don't get it. This is like I'm going to skip over this. Stealing, misappropriating, mishandling, and misrepresenting the amounts of use of entry fees, prizes, pots, hotel, lodging fees, viewer or donations, or any other person. But okay, this is just going beyond that. Failing to abide by any participant's third-party rules, advocating or encouraging or being in compliance to or threatening to engage in any potential violations, evading or attempting to evade disciplinary action taken under the code of conduct, underrated participants. Any participants under the age of 16 must be accompanied by an adult guardian, which is fine. That's a good rule. Other violations. The list of violations is zero to any other behavior that goes against the commonly accepted standards of norms. This is funny. The Code of Conduct team may organize itself as a nonprofit, other legal entry. That's their main goal here, is to be a nonprofit. Membership of the Code of Conduct includes all the backers as well as anyone who else accepts the Code of Conduct team's invitation to join. Committees of the Code of Conduct team are 8 committees. The Moderation Committee, the Investigation Committee, the Code of Conduct Committee, the Tools of Record Keeping Committee, the Legal Committee, the Inclusion and Diversity Committee, and yes, of course, the Inclusion of Diversity Committee, Public Relations Committee, and Collegiate Committee. And the COT team had meetings from time to time deciding issues and structures and amendments. Surprisingly, this is kind of not. I think they're trying to enforce this idea, but some people kind of agree, some people disagree. Which I'll link the fighting game code of conduct here. This is only basically one renovation of it because this is being on January 14th, 2021. They'll probably redo this because some people will agree, some people will disagree, because I know there's a lot of criticisms about this code of conduct. It seems reasonable, but I'm sorry if I'm taking so long about this, because it is kind of hilarious looking at this this rule of what they're trying to do and what they're trying to attend. But I know that they seem reasonable. I'm pretty sure that they're having a lot of feedback and talking about this. And I don't want to, disrespect them, but certain things are just laughable in this thing. And I understand that they want to include diversity in this thing, but it's like the stuff that they try to introduce wording wise, I'm kind of surprised by. Anyways, you can follow them on Twitter if you want to get involved in this whole thing. I don't suggest you harass them or anything like that, because I don't want them to be harassed. I think they had good intentions with it, but at the same time, some of the rules are ridiculously stupid. That's in my opinion on this. And I'm not trying to disrespect them or try to hurt them. I think they had good intentions, but at the same time, certain rules I kind of honestly disagree with them about, because the wording that they're using is kind of ridiculous, especially I can understand the whole hacking thing, but it's just and it's and the fighting thing was just ridiculous with weapons. I don't know how that will happen, but there's also the fact that you're also going to be dealing with people outside of it too. And I don't know how this fighting game code of conduct is going to work well outside of the norm, but I do believe that they do have good intentions, but at the same time, I honestly disagree with them on certain things, because this code of conduct does have some they're not trying to control it. They're just trying to create an idea guideline for people to follow. And I don't believe that this is a bad thing. I think that at the same time, there are some things I disagree with them about, especially how they handle things social wise, especially there should be some rule about professionalism about this that they should put in the code of conduct. But at the same time, they're more focusing on the social aspect of it, especially what goes on social media, and they're basically going to include privacy of home, which they shouldn't be getting involved in privacy of home. Like, that's kind of ridiculous. So anyways, guys, leave your thoughts down below and tell me what you guys think. I'm sorry if I couldn't read it very well, because half of it I couldn't help but laugh at. So you guys have a nice day. Hopefully you guys enjoyed yourselves watching this interesting video of the fighting game community code of conduct. So you guys have a wonderful time. So take care. Bye-bye.